We stay swishing, 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 swishing. Rise up, stay swishing, 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 swishing. Willing every jumper with a flick of wrist. Never a doubt, a fear of miss. Anyone sleeping on my shots get fits. Cause every shot through nets, through rips. Cards, hearts, darts, rewards, smarts, sharks.
Episode number 39.
39. Any players number 39 in your mentals?
39. Dwight Howard, I believe, wore that as a Sixer and Laker, if I remember correctly.
That's the only one that comes to my mind.
39. No, I don't know any others.
Alright, so we come today. This is our first official off-season primer. We're going to talk about a few things today, including a recap of some off-season early moves that have been made before the, you know what it's called, right? The moratorium period ends.
Yep.
Alright, so these are agreements, verbal agreements. Most people do keep their verbal words, unless you get trapped in some room like a certain player. Do you remember who that was?
Yabusele?
No, that was... No, the DeAndre Jordan, come on.
That's what the rumor is, but...
He got trapped and they got convinced to come back to the Clippers. What year was that?
2010. 11.
No, it was not. Jordan Clippers...
2015.
So that happened in 2015, where he had agreed with the Mavericks, but then the Clippers came together and met at his house and convinced him to stay with the Clippers.
Yeah, that did happen. So, should we get right into it?
That was after a verbal agreement. So these are verbal agreements, in other words. Alright, so we could talk about some teams here. We'll do kind of like a brief overview and have a discussion about the direction of that team. Alright, so we go with the number one team. Go.
Alright, so we're going in alphabetical order here. Atlanta Hawks, you have their biggest signing being Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 4-year deal.
Sign and trade.
Sign and trade. I believe they gave the Timberwolves a second or something like that. They also got Luke Kennard on a 1-year, $11 million. Traded for Kristaps in that massive deal for the Celtics to unload cap, as we discussed on last episode. Drafted Asa Newell. What do you think about all those signings?
How about the departures, like getting replaced so quickly? Like Capella is replaced by Porzingis. LeVert is basically essentially replaced by Alexander Walker. Nance Jr. by Newell. Mann by Kennard, I guess you could say. And Niang doesn't matter.
No, they'll replace him eventually. Maybe they'll get Trey Lyles or something in free agency, because free agency is not quite over yet. This is just recapping so far what everyone's doing.
So the direction of the Hawks is, I gather from them, my opinion is they see an opening in the East to compete this year, and they're swinging for the fences by trying to get win-now players like Porzingis and Alexander Walker.
In my opinion, and I agree with all that, but my opinion is this is the last shot for Trae Young to prove himself as the main guy. If this can't happen in the next year, 2, maybe 3 years, I will see Trae Young being traded to another organization.
If they want him. All right. But yeah, I mean, is that all you want to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, overall, the team is built around Trae Young quite nicely. They got a lot of shooters good defenders, lob
Daniels.
people who catch lobs. Okongwu's going to
Congo's going to
grow.
be starting, most likely, unless Porzingis steals it.
They're both going to start together, I would
You
think.
think?
They need size with Trae
Jalen
Young.
Johnson,
He'll be the 3.
Reese Shea.
Backup.
I'm not quite sure, but we'll see what the Hawks do. I think this is a swing year for them. They have to go for it, and it might be the last chance for this group, possibly.
Yeah. All right.
Speaking of last chance, the Celtics might have had their last chance this past year. They're the
I
next
wouldn't
team.
say that.
So we do see heavy movement on this team, and a lot of people foresaw this in the NBA circles as they would have to cut cap to essentially keep their superstars happy, keep them competitive.
Whoa,
So-
whoa. They cut cap because they were in the second apron, and if you
Yeah.
stay in the second apron for 3 out of 5 years, you lose your first round pick.
All right, but listen, it's only been 1 year that they were in the apron. That just happened.
They were
Love
in
gang.
it last year.
No, yeah, that was 1 year. This would have been year 2. They could have risked it and did this next year, but they did it because Tatum's out.
Well,
They
yeah.
are trying to put a competitive team, and
He'll be back in the second apron when he's healthy.
And what they're trying to do is create some kind of scoring punch, but with the addition of Simons. We don't know if he's going to be relayed elsewhere, but it seems if he does stay there, he's a good push-in piece to get some offense.
You got George Niang being sent in that Kristaps trade we just went over.
All right, we don't really have to talk about him.
Couple scrubs to help them tank, I guess. I don't know.
It's called couple guys who are on budget contracts because Cornette got 41 mil.
Yeah, they got Luca Garza, Josh Minot, both like minimum guys. Hugo Gonzalez in the draft and Max
Could be
Shulga,
decent.
I believe, in the second round.
Could be decent, but I think they need development.
I mean, they still have Jalen Brown, Derek White,
Mainstays.
Pritchard.
Mainstays. Though Pritchard really takes a step up, unless you think Simon stays on this team.
My question is, who is their starting point guard right now?
Simons.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or Derek White. I mean, essentially Derek White could
I
be.
don't know. I don't like to label them as a point guard and facilitator.
In today's NBA, does that really matter, though? But I see this as the Celtics trying to stay afloat while Tatum's out. That is their off-season.
They're still
While
Horf-
maintaining a decent
Horford's
budget.
still a free agent.
Yeah, he's probably gone, though.
Rumors about him going to the Warriors or something.
Yeah, I could see it.
We'll see.
The Brooklyn Nets.
A lot of this is just draft related. Like they're bringing back. I mean, Zaire Williams came from Memphis. They re-signed him and Sharp.
Not really notable.
I mean, they played last year, but who knows what they'll
They
do
just
now.
drafted 5 guys, and they're all staying.
Yeah, they drafted Igor Demon, Traore, Ben Seraph, Drake Powell, and Danny Wolf. If you forgot any of those names, I mean,
The
kinda-
biggest thing they did, though, we have to talk about is swapping Cam Johnson for Michael Porter Jr. This gives Porter Jr. free reign to hoist.
and they get a first in that deal.
I think that's a good trade for the Nets, honestly.
If Porter Jr. isn't cooked, because last playoffs he looked kind of cooked.
All right, yeah, but that's also not with free reign. I'm interested to see what he does with free reign because he is a good shooter.
His shoulder was messed up. Who knows if
We'll
it
see.
heals properly.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Russell left them. I mean, I saw that coming.
We got the Hornets here next. They just re-signed Trey Mann to a three-year deal. They
Most of
drafted-
what they've done is drafts and trades, though. No one really cares about Trey Mann.
He's the next coming of Allen Iverson. How dare you disrespect him?
All right. Yeah, they picked up Colin Sexton. They had a great draft there, in my opinion, with the bringing in of 3 white guys. No racism. It's just interesting to see that happening in Charlotte. Sion James is a good pickup in the draft as well in the second round. I like their draft overall, especially Con Knippel. And Kalkenbrenner is a sleeper in my opinion, a good replacement for Mark Williams. I would also say their signing of Dinwiddie gives them a nice little threat off the bench to go along with Sexton and Con Knippel.
My hot take here is that seeing all the guards they drafted and they traded for Colin Sexton, and you just mentioned Dinwiddie,
They also picked up Connaughton.
this opens the door for a huge question. Does LaMelo Ball want to be traded?
I want to say, yeah, I want to see him play this year.
I think he's I think he put his word in that he's either not returning or wants a trade, and he's probably on his way out in the next year or two.
I could see that, but it's also, I think the Hornets are trying to build some kind of playoff team there
I don't see it.
with those pickups that they had.
No, I don't see it. Not yet.
All right, next we got Chicago Bulls. Start us off.
All right, this is a lot of boringness, I would say. There's not really much exciting. I mean, they get a couple wings to add in. Coro from the Cavs and Noah Senge with their 12th pick, I believe it was.
Coro really hasn't been the player that people thought he would be. It remains to see what Essengay will be in the NBA. We know he was overseas, so let's see how he
Projects.
plays. Development will be needed. They lost Lonzo Ball, so I mean the essential of bringing back Trey Jones, keeping Cody White are going to be pretty important for them to perform.
Yeah, and there's also reports about them trading Vucevic and Kobe White and maybe Patrick Williams, so who knows what happens.
They've been saying they want to trade Patrick Williams for 3 years. No one wants him. He's a complete bust.
Yeah. It's like trying to sell scrap metal or scrap cars.
To me, I think the Bulls might have had one of the worst off seasons so far.
I could think of some others that we'll get to, but definitely up there.
Yeah, so I
Cleveland-
don't think they moved the needle at all, in other words.
Cleveland Cavaliers, they did some things, not much, but
Lonzo Ball's the big thing, Lance Jr.
yeah, they bring back Merrill on a 4-year deal. I mean, he's a decent bench piece.
It's not big.
I don't know.
Didn't they get someone else? No? Am I thinking of someone else?
This is who they got. They got Sam Merrill, Lonzo Ball, Larry Nance. They lost Ty Jerome.
Alright, everyone knows that one. Yeah, I mean, I think they're already cemented in top 3 status in the East. They just maintained it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't discount them for already having their team built. They just have to fix what's wrong, add some pieces. They did shore up a little bit better defensively in getting Lonzo.
If he plays.
Larry Nance is a decent backup center.
I know the Knicks were also looking at both those guys, so for the Cavs to snatch those behind us, that's pretty cool for them. That's my viewpoint. So it's like a battle war between the top of the East.
I mean, no one expected the Cavs to do too much. So
Same with us.
We'll
We're both near the second apron or over it. They are over it.
yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to do much at all, even throughout the season.
All right, next.
So, Dallas Mavericks, we got next. Kyrie signs a 3-year extension.
Although he's going to be out,
Yeah, he signed it while being hurt.
so Russell came in to be a stopgap.
2-year deal, $13 million. They drafted Cooper Flag, obviously. He'll step right in and start. Jason Kidd wants him to work on being a facilitator throughout Summer League and preseason is he wants to see him grow as a passer. And
I do think they had like a solid off season recovering from that devastating trade.
so this kind of reminds me of old Mavericks teams. They like to get two good point guards, play them together in big moments. They have a lot of wings, a lot of size on that team, a lot of lob threats for Kyrie and D'Lo to throw to. You've seen in the past, D'Lo works well with Anthony Davis on the offensive end. They're pretty in sync on offense, pick and roll plays. Cooper Flag kind of just
He will be the face of the team.
he's the face of the team, but he's also, what's the word where you like, if he's good, he's putting them over the edge. Like he's the X factor is what I'm thinking of. If Cooper Flag steps into the NBA right away and averages 20 plus, that could be kind of scary for the NBA. That probably means the Mavericks are a top 3 seed in the West.
Although I don't see that happening. You left off the departures for some reason here. But we know Dinwiddie left.
I mean, yeah.
Hardaway also left.
He was on the
Come on.
Pistons.
Oops. 2 years ago.
Alright, so pretty decent offseason for the Mavericks. Denver Nuggets, they made a lot of moves, a lot of shakeups here. They added some good depth pieces, a lot of wings. Bruce Brown, Cam Johnson, and Tim Hardaway Jr. for
The
the
return
wings.
of Bruce Brown, hoping to find the spark plug again. Cam Johnson for Porter Jr., 1-for-1. Kind of
With the
makes sense.
first.
1-for-1 trade, basically.
With the first.
All right.
So,
Hardaway Jr. was a vet min deal, so he's a nice little rotational piece potentially on a team that lacked depth last year and struggled to use their bench.
a team that was basically Jokic and Murray and a bunch of ragtags, to put it harshly.
Sneaky one is how they finessed the Kings on getting Valanciunas.
Yeah, I mean, that's surprising. Like, he's going to be a backup, which is kind of scary. He's been a starter for a while now.
Except for last year.
Yeah, but really good vet minimum signings. I'm surprised they were able to land Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway for a minimum. That seems kind of crazy, but that's what happens when you have a good star that people want to play with.
All right, the Pistons. They've done a couple things this offseason, but they've also lost a few. I don't really see them changing too much here besides getting LeVert and Duncan Robinson.
They added shooters, and they brought back Paul
They
Reed.
lost a shooter, though.
Yeah, but they added a lot of spacing, I would say. Karis LeVert can create his own shot. Duncan Robinson is great coming around screens. Great spot
Great.
shooter. Yeah, that's
He had
why.
an off year last year.
I know, but in the right system with a real point guard, I'm sure he's going to be way better than with the Heat, with Terry Rozier and whoever else that they think is a point guard.
Interesting take. I mean, the Pistons are kind of where they were to end the season, in my opinion, still. There's no groundbreaking move there.
I mean, I don't know a lot about Chaz Lanier, but I'm sure
It's a
he's...
shooter.
Yeah, so they filled their needs of what they exactly needed. I'm sure they could have done better, but considering what was out there, they improved their needs for sure. The next one.
We don't really... I mean, it just says Alex Tui. It doesn't even say additions.
Yeah, they added Alex Tui in the draft in the, I believe, second round, or maybe they signed him after the draft, but they didn't do anything as of now, as of this recording.
We could see an Al Horford pop up here, though.
Yeah, they did lose Looney to the Pelicans, but he didn't really play a lot last year for the Warriors when it mattered. Yes, so you can't really say too much about them.
Again, no changes there, really. to be honest. Rockets, this is a team that has momentally made shifts.
There's a lot to talk about here. Let's get right into it.
They just signed a bunch of their guys back to new deals. We don't have to say all the names. I mean, it's basically the core. They've brought in Capella and Durant and Finney-Smith as additions, losing Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green in that trade, of course, for Durant. Finney-Smith on a nice little cheap 4-year deal.
So there's reports going around that the Lakers told teams that Finney-Smith's ankle's cooked, and he didn't like that. I don't know how true that is, but it makes sense because he's friends with Luka. Why wouldn't he want to stay there? Unless the Lakers did him dirty or didn't want him. And I definitely think that report is true that the Lakers owner badmouthed him health-wise. But
I'm not so sure about that. I could only speak on what is fact here. The facts are the Rockets have made the most moves, and I think they're going all in to try to make moves in the playoffs this year. No more waiting for them.
speaking about playoffs this year, the Pacers did not do too much so far.
They drafted Cam Jones in the second round.
They need... It's kind of probably a gap year for the Pacers, honestly, unless Siakam can turn into MVP type player.
I don't see it happening.
They just... I guess TJ is going to have to start at point guard. I don't know what to think.
Nembhard. Start Matherin with Nembhard is my guess.
Yeah, but then who's their center now? Because they lost Miles Turner to the Bucks. Like,
Toppin?
I don't think...
I don't know.
It's,
I think they're cooked this year unless they sign people. The offseason's not over.
So the Clippers, we got Batum and Harden coming back. Somehow Harden got a pay increase.
I don't understand that. The real thing that they did here was bring in Brook Lopez. Solid $9 million, 2 years each. So that's $18 million total. Snag him away from the Bucks.
They brought in the Stater, Niederhauser.
I mean, that's not really saying much.
Two big centers. I believe both can, or at least Brook Lopez will space the floor. So
Understanding that Zubac is still the center, I don't think we need to talk about a Penn Stater.
Probably not.
It's a depth piece. And they brought in Lopez to come off the bench, provide some experience, leadership. To me, again, I don't really see any changes for the Clippers besides getting depth.
So the Lakers, another, not too much going on here. They
Sneaky pickup is Laravia, though.
brought in Laravia. I'm not really high on him. I mean, decent bench player, but what does he actually bring you consistently? I don't know. They
Solid wing.
drafted
Rotational.
a Adu Thiero. I don't know. Thiero. I don't know too much about him. I've heard good things though about him being a pretty solid wing for them. Sneaky draft pickup is what I heard. Obviously, LeBron takes his player option and immediately starts complaining.
Right. All right. Again, I don't see a lot with the Lakers. I think they're in the same kind of general range as where they were last year. Next, we got the Grizzlies. They have made some changes, of course.
Jaren Jackson Jr. extended.
That's not a change.
I know, but he extended 5 years, $240, which is a pretty crazy contract.
All right, so the change was that they made a trade for Desmond Bain to leave. Cole Anthony joined the team, although they're potentially buying him out. Caldwell Pope, a good solid vet there to help with Ja. They drafted Coward. Ty Jerome signed, so that's a sign Cole Anthony's probably on the move as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to think about this because I feel like the Grizzlies needed size and they kind of just went with guards.
They still have Aldama. They still have Jackson Jr.
I know, but like off the bench, unless you were really high
Aldama.
on G.G. Jackson or something, like
Could have a good year. New coach.
I think
Well,
they need to make a
technically,
couple more
semi.
signings, or at least another trade or so to shore up their wings. But that's my opinion.
Not terrible, but not the best.
So
The Miami Heat.
they didn't really do a lot. They brought in Fontecchio from the Pistons.
Again with that Duncan Robinson move. Trade.
Yeah. Drafted Yakuchonis, who is my sleeper pickup of the draft.
Can't shoot.
We believe that, or at least I believe that, he'll be a stud in the league. Great
Davion
pickup.
Mitchell has returned on a 2-year deal, so they keep him on the books there because they do need point guards and defense there. Tyler Hero still the focus. Bam Adebayo still the focus. Nothing changed. They're still going to be trash. Next.
Speaking of still gonna be trash,
Not so sure about that, actually.
so I'm not high on the Bucks off season in my opinion. They brought back all of the like a lot of their problems that they probably should have let go. They brought back KPJ. He'll probably start because they don't have a lot to work with. Brought back Portis and
Micic.
Sims. Yeah, they added Micic in a
No,
trade.
I'm saying he might start.
No, he's just... No, not with Doc Rivers. Micic is a
He's actually older.
interesting player, but I don't know. I don't really seem to rely on someone like that. But they did bring in Miles Turner, so that's a decent addition for them.
They kept Trent Jr., Portis are the main things here, besides adding Turner. Connaughton left, and the major leaving point here is Damian Lillard has been stretched and waived. So while he is out with injury, they do have to kind of replace that huge hole in the lineup. I don't think this team has that replacement. It's going to be a collection of guys. Hence why they draft.
Are you saying addition by subtraction?
No, I'm saying like the team's going to have to use multiple guys to fill that hole.
I just don't see it. Like,
That's why they got a bunch of guards.
if I'm being honest, I'm still pissed off with the Bucks for like not doing a whole lot. In the
Yeah, but
offseason.
they don't have a lot to work with. It's not like they have a ton of space. Obviously, Brook Lopez left too, so that's
The X factor here is, can Kyle Kuzma produce next season as a prolific scorer? Because that's what they're going to need.
I do think he has to step up and be the number 2. All right. Next.
We got the Timberwolves.
I mean, nothing really shaking up here besides losing a couple of their bench players, the major one being Alexander Walker. They re-signed some guys. They drafted a few guys who are probably projects. I don't really see like any change on this team because at the end of the day, the mainstays are still here. It is still Edwards. It's still Randall, Reed, Gobert on the defensive end.
And Conley still has a year left of service.
McDaniel's obviously key on defense too.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Edwards always finds a way to get into the conference finals, so you can't really knock them for not doing a whole lot. They're tiny steps away from being in the finals, but
And also goes to show you they were pretty smart for moving Towns because they kept Randall on a discounted contract.
yeah, that's true. Pretty solid signing there. If he keeps playing like he did in the playoffs last year, a lot of the moments for him in the playoffs were much improved from what I saw.
The big thing for them is, are they going to trade DiVincenzo? Then we could make a full discussion on what they did this offseason. Next.
All right, the Pelicans. We got them drafting Fears, Derek Queen, Micah Peavy, traded for Poole.
Sadiq Bey also joins. Looney signed a contract. They did lose some guys that were key members of the team, like McCollum and Brown. Olenek was a solid bench player. To me, I think they did make some improvements.
They are building in the right way, in my opinion. They just are relied on Zion being healthy. It's kind of hard to rely on him, but that's what you have to do when you have someone like that could, a generational talent that could win you games alone.
The so-called generational talent.
They have-
I can't really say that.
They have DJ Murray still, who's still hurt. I believe-
DeJounte.
Yeah, DJ. I believe he's gonna miss some time to start the year. Herb Jones they still kept. I
Shocking.
believe he's on a expiring deal, so they got to do something eventually there.
The
Now,
Knicks.
all
Since we're talking about the Knicks, let's get right into. The word is that Mike Brown is going to be the head coach. Us Knicks fans knew about this for about a week from several reports on our insiders locally. We also have heard that James Borrega will probably be named as an offensive coordinator. So the plan is to get a guy who's going to play his bench. He's going to develop the youth properly, and then he's going to use his offensive coordinator, collaborate to develop key offensive schemes to make the most out of the Towns and Bridges additions, because that is what this front office set out to build. Not Tibbs, the front office. That's why Tibbs is gone.
So in my
And then
time,
you could go with the rest.
in my time watching the Kings, what I saw from Mike Brown is that he's not afraid to try different things, which is what the Knicks need. He's a coach that could be very serious, but also very comedic at times. He could crack jokes in the middle of practice where maybe Tibbs is very serious and
Authoritative,
Yeah.
dictatorship.
Mike Brown's more laid back, I would say.
The main thing is the Knicks front office wanted someone to collaborate with them. Tibbs is a stubborn coach who only does things one way. That is why he's gone. It's not because he lost in the playoffs. He was probably gone no matter what, unless they actually won the finals, which I honestly, realistically didn't think was possible.
So, do you want to get into the names they signed?
The big things are Clarkson and Yabusele. Most people expected us to do nothing. I had tried to tell many people on this pod that there will be some bench additions. We don't need a ton of money because we proved we are a contender and people will come. We got Clarkson and Yabusele. Enough said.
The All-Stars.
Not all stars, key bench pieces. Diawara was in the second round. It was not much to say there. He's probably drafting stash.
Alright, we got the champs here. They extended Alexander Walker. What'd I say? Gilgeous Alexander, 4
Got a
years,
new-
285.
70-something per million.
Yeah, that's crazy contract. They'd even make that in 3 years back 20 years ago. But it goes to show you how eventually talent grows the game and TV deals grow. People get paid more and more.
To be honest, this team really didn't do much. They didn't have to. They had a full roster.
Well, they didn't sign anyone in free agency, is what you're saying.
I'm saying they didn't do much because essentially the guys they did add are not going to be on the team. Sorber's hurt. Barnsheiser's probably a G Leaguer. There's not much to talk about there. There's the same team, top of the West.
Maybe Lillard will go there on a minimum deal.
No, they have no space. They have a full roster.
I'm just talking about middle of the season.
No, it's not happening. No
All right.
time to play them.
Orlando Magic, we touched on the Bane trade. They got Bane. Picked up Jace Richardson and Noah Penda
Great
in the
shooter.
draft.
Great shooter. Two great shooters there.
So their needs were shooting.
They've added
and
it.
floor spacing, which is the same thing, but they added that. A lot of shooting in the off season. They also got Tyus Jones on a 1-year deal. People are speculating if he's going to start or be a good sixth man type of guy. I think they would be smart to start someone like that.
I'm not so sure about that. I do think you got to give the Anthony Black thing a shot there since he was their draft pick. We're talking about a $7 million 1-year deal guy.
I don't think it's between him and Black. I think it's between him and Suggs for starting point guard.
I see Suggs as a 2.
I really don't think Anthony Black will start, at least to start the year.
All right. Fair enough. I mean, they've obviously addition by subtraction potentially there with some of those guys that left.
But I will say solid offseason for the Magic.
They are taking a swing to try to compete with the Knicks and the Cavs of the world.
Moving on, we got the Sixers, otherwise known as...
The only thing they've done good is draft VJ Edgecombe, in other words.
So, I like their re-signing of Edwards. I like bringing in Watford, who's an athletic 4 off the bench, can fill the needs of rebounding and high motor type stuff. They
So
also
basically Yabusele.
no, Yabusele isn't athletic like him, but
I mean, he's
let me
dunking on
let me
people.
do my
he's
team.
dunking on-
They bring in I'll keep going with the positives. So they bring in VJ and Janai Broom.
Is Janai Broom up positive?
I'm not really sold on Janai Broom, but we'll see what he could do against NBA talent.
I don't think his game translates well, hence why he was a second-round pick.
I think VJ will be a solid player, at least to start his career right away. I think he'll produce right off the bat.
Question is, will he start?
Doesn't
No.
have to.
No skipping around
He
this.
doesn't have to.
So will he start day 1? Number 3 pick in the draft. You said it yourself.
I would start him, but the question is,
No, don't be political. We need some emotions on this pod. Show emotion, Sixer.
they better start him. Honestly, they need
No
someone.
robotic takes.
I'm saying they better start him. I don't know what they're gonna do. They have a lot of depth, I would say, this year if everyone's healthy. A lot
So
of different
if I
ways.
see Eric Gordon playing any minutes over him, what will I say?
What will you say? Or what will I say?
What will I say? I will say, congrats, Daryl Morey, you've done it again.
I mean, yeah. So Eric Gordon comes back on a vet minimum. Sixers fans are parading in the streets right now outside.
In other words, if you can't tell sarcasm, you may need to get adjusted to media. All right, next we got the Suns. Obviously, the big thing is the trade. They brought in Dylan Brooks. They brought in Jalen Green in that trade. They've also traded for Mark Williams, which is an interesting move considering they drafted 2 bigs as well, including Malawak, who is a lottery pick, and then a early second-round pick. The first one is, in fact, on Rasheer Fleming. Another
He's not a
big-
center, though. He's a 4.
4/5, but again, I'm talking about length. They're bringing in some much needed length on this team. They got some snipers in Jalen Green. Dylan Brooks is going to bring that energy. I do think the Suns had a good offseason, in other words.
So, my opinion is the Suns are a point guard away from being a top 3 winner of the offseason.
Who's to say Jalen Green is not that?
No, not a
with-
chance.
They have Devin Booker.
Not
they
a
have-
chance. You need a point guard that facilitates. You need a Chris Paul. You need a Pat Bev. You need
Pat Bev. When
you
did he-
need someone like that. I'm telling you. You need someone that does not care about scoring. They just want to get the offense set up, get people where they like to be. Put the ball exactly where a shooter wants to shoot. That is what you need on the Suns. And then I will label this A+ offseason.
All right, we all know it's going to be Booker and Green starting, so carry the heck on.
Who's to say they can't start with a point guard?
Me. That's horrendously small if they do.
Who's to say Jalen Green stays?
Me. Next.
Trailblazers. They bought out Ayton.
So yeah, he's gone. We don't know where he's going. Again, this is why this is not a complete yet.
Yeah, so they added Drew Holiday with the trade.
Which, to be honest, to see him coming back after they're the ones who traded him to the Celtics and losing Simons for this guy, I question this.
Yeah, it still doesn't make sense to me, but they also drafted the Chinese center Young Hansen, who people are.
Labeling the Chinese Jokic.
I don't like when people do that, because you could say that about a lot of people. Like, a lot of centers could pass like Jokic, but can they do it against NBA talent is the thing.
I don't know. I don't really understand the Blazers offseason. I question a lot. It could be one of the worst.
Yeah, I expected more for a up-and-coming team. They had some good moments last year, but definitely not even close, especially after losing Simons.
So it seems like they're kind of going to lean more on Scoot this year.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. Moving on to the Kings, who also made...
Questionable moves.
I mean, I like their draft. They picked up Clifford and Raynaud. Decent
Some guys who
pickups.
could score the ball, and Raynaud's a great offensive rebounder as well. Rebounding in
Nick
general.
Clifford averaged 10 rebounds as a 2/3 wing.
I don't understand the Valanciunas for Sarge part of it.
I just think they traded Valanciunas to open up space for Raynaud to play right away.
I mean, that doesn't really matter, to be honest. They could have kept both.
Yeah, but you want people to develop. You want the young guys to step right in and play.
They still have Sabonis.
Schroeder signed there, so he will probably
They do have
start.
a point guard now, yep. That's their point guard.
So you have Schroeder, DeRozan, Levine, Murray, and Sabonis.
It's not a bad team. It's just they have to gel right, or otherwise it's a failure.
Yeah, I still question their spacing, as I did last year.
In the West is the question, if they could actually do anything. The Spurs! Alright, so they've had a pretty good offseason, mainly being the draft part of it. They picked up 2 solid college players this past year. Dylan Harper's expected to slot right in. They had desperate needs and wants to draft that guy at number 2. Carter Bryant's a great pickup at 14, steal.
Yeah, they also got a decent backup center in Luke Cornett, the guy who jumps on every.
Might have overpaid, though.
The guy who jumps really tall for contested threes.
I think he is a product of the Celtics system and their surrounding players. I don't really think he's that good.
I mean, yeah, he plays. He has good IQ, but like, I don't know. Kind of an overpayment.
They really didn't lose anything. They lost one guy, so.
And Chris Paul's probably gone. But
All right, yeah, but we don't know for sure. He's probably gone though. The word is probably the Clippers or somewhere else. We'll see.
Another boring team, the Raptors, extended Pirtle, signed the ex-Spur, I don't even remember.
Mama Kushvili,
Shikavili or something like that.
the guy who had a good game against us. The draft was questionable.
Overall, I don't know. They, like you said, they drafted Boyles and Elijah Martin. Boyles is an interesting player, but
At number 9 over Malawak, I'm not so sure that was the right move.
kind of an L off-season so far for them.
Again, barring anything else. This is so far, guys, not the end. Jazz. So the main thing, they drafted Ace Bailey. They took a swing. He is going to report there, so any thoughts of him not reporting are gone. Walter Clayton Jr. at 18 is a solid, nice 4-year college player, so potentially bringing in some key pieces there.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is, can Ace Bailey shut up the critics and produce right away like he thinks he is some kind of star right now? can he step in and produce over 15 a game? Because
That's going to be needed on this team. They lost Sexton and Clarkson.
yeah, I mean, I don't.
They're going to need some offense.
He's obviously gonna start, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, he's going to need to be a scorer. It's going to have to happen. I mean, who else they have?
Markkanen, Kessler.
When Markkinen's one guy, I mean, he's not going to carry the team.
Honestly,
Kessler doesn't score much.
their team's kind of boring. Honestly, I'm not gonna watch a ton of Jazz games, but I'll tune in
Yeah, I
this.
essentially think it's Ace Bailey's team to run. All right, next we got the Wizards. They've had an interesting offseason, making some trades here. They've got some solid vets that they brought in to try to help with the obvious youth movement that they've had for years. So now they're kind of shifting gears. They've already brought in Middleton. They then brought in Olynyk, CJ McCollum from the Pelicans. And they drafted some key players here, Trey Johnson, Will Riley, to help the all-rated Sar on that team, and Koulibaly, who are part of the core.
So in the past, they drafted primarily for defense, and this year they went with offense to balance it out. They went with a lot of
Scoring
solid
punch.
shooters. Trey Johnson is a dark horse for Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. I believe he will have that type of production for the Wizards that he could be a Rookie of the Year candidate at the end of the year. We'll see.
There's a certain Dallas guy who has this thing to say about that.
Yeah, but he doesn't have as
Two-way
much
player.
opportunity. Is what I'm
I
saying.
think he will, considering Kyrie's out.
But yeah, they did lose a couple players, not really much notable besides Poole.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing was Poole, but then again, they brought in Trey Johnson anyway, so, I mean, the thought is to give Trey Johnson the ball now.
So that is the last team recapping what happened so far.
So what I wanted to talk about, besides this offseason, is some of the most memorable off seasons of our recent future. I mean, past, not future. Sorry, guys. Don't cut it. We'll leave the mistake in. All right. So, one thought I had was the obvious 2010 off season. Do you know what happened that off season?
2010.
Something big.
When LeBron joined the Heat.
Yep, the decision. So that was a crazy off season where you saw a lot of changing of hands. You saw Chris Bosh, LeBron sign up with the Heat and Dwayne Wade.
Signed up.
Yeah, sign up for the Dwayne Wades. They were at that time known as. And they put together a dynasty type team for a few years. We also had Stat joining New York Knicks, the first big time free agent in many decades. Just kidding. In many years at that time. And he kind of brought back hope to New York and eventually brought in Melo later that year during the season. And basically, that was the major parts of that off season. There was some other things, obviously, but those were the pieces. What's an off season you think of?
That's about the only one that comes to mind as a crazy off season. I mean,
I got another one.
you could say the bubble year, maybe.
2019 off season. So that was the off season. There were some big hands exchanged again. So this was a major signing of KD and Kyrie to the Nets. Their so-called duo to bring together a championship together for two guys who've had success on other teams with other players. Although that didn't seem to be the working out situation for the Nets, as they shortly imploded and are now on the bottom of the East. This was also the year that Kawhi and PG-13 at that time grouped together to join the Clippers. Now, we also had the wonderful Al Horford go to the Sixers.
That's not notable.
At that time, it was thought to be good, but he was a big failure on that team as he could not pair well with Embiid. And then the big thing, Lakers added AD, Boogie Cousins, and Danny Green to an already LeBron team.
Who ended up winning
I'm
the
not done.
championship next year?
Not too much. It was the Lakers. Bubble year.
2020.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right. Butler went to the Heat. I'm not done. Butler went to the Heat that year. Big signing. Kemba got signing to a Boston team. The great Kemba Hope. That never happened. He did have a solid start. Rose went to the Pistons. The Knicks picked up RJ in the draft and signed Julius Randle for what would be known as the revitalization of New York. That was a great offseason. And also the Pelicans picked up Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart in the trade for Anthony Davis. So they put together a nice little thing. Plus added Zion in the draft. Although that didn't really pan out to what they thought. So that was a crazy offseason.
So in comparison, is this top 3?
No. I do think
What
it
about
was
last offseason when Paul George...
not too much. The zestiest injury ever. Shortly after signing. I would say that this offseason has been head-scratching, but not the best.
Do the Knicks now have the zestiest team in the NBA?
I still think Philly is on the competing totem pole for the Zesty Award. Am I allowed to say why?
You could say the players.
McCain.
Who else?
McCain.
They still have Oubre. Why didn't you say him?
Oubre. I mean, I guess.
And the Knicks have Clarkson and Towns, so...
Well, Towns is not zesty.
He is definitely zesty. Tell us in the comments, is he zesty?
He just has voice changes.
Just has... I mean, do you see his hand motions?
He doesn't paint his
His
nails. He
attitudes.
doesn't paint his nails.
If he did, there would be no questions.
Not too much.
No, but we all know that Towns does indeed have a significant other that is opposite gender.
Yeah.
It's just all in fun.
I think he leans into the viral things too much, but anyway, it's been a great episode here. There's more to come this off season. There's more. We're sure we're gonna have to revise some of our statements because teams have not fully signed everybody yet. There's sure to be some shaking around. I am primed to see what happens here, and looking forward to it. And we're excited as Knicks fans. This is our year. This is it.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But more things to come in free agency. and
Mike
trades.
Brown.
Um,
Who is Mike Brown?
if you tuned in this long, we appreciate you staying for almost a whole hour at this point. At least 50
You
minutes.
ever hear the song Who is Mike Jones? Who is Mike Brown? Mike Brown. Alright, not too much. Alright, guys.
Like,
share,
comment,
subscribe.
subscribe.
The frickin' pod. This is episode 39 signing off.
Peace.